what his next Van Halen book is going to be. And here's what he had to say.
Hey, Dave and Dave, it's Greg Renoff. I appreciate you guys asking me about another Van Halen book. I certainly have a desire to do another Van Halen book. I probably would be focused on the 80s era since I did a book on the 70s before. But my main focus right now is trying to get that Ted Templeman book out in the world to everybody and get it in their hands. I'm signing books and looking forward to Amazon fulfilling orders, and Van Halen store has been doing a great job of getting orders out as well. So that's where I'm looking right now. But yeah, down the road, I think an 80s book would be something in my future.
All right, because I can't stop. I really can't stop myself. I'm like a kid in a candy store. I try to grab it.
You're always getting greedy.
I'm out of control. So I had to throw this one in there. Again, this is Van Halen related in a way. So this is a question about his Ted Templeman book. And we all know that Ted Templeman produced all these different acts. We talked about Sammy Hagar, and we talked about Montrose, and we talked about Van Halen and David Lee Roth. But he also produced the Bullitt Boys, okay? I think we mentioned it briefly in the interview. But what I'd like to ask Greg, and I forgot to ask him, and believe it or not, Dave, this is what a sick bastard I am. I was sitting in my bed, burning up that I didn't ask him this question. So if you think about when the Bullitt Boys came out, which is the late 80s, okay? He had already been through his 5150 situation with Van Halen, where he was, they asked him to produce the album, he doesn't want to produce the album, back and forth. Okay. Then he got fired by David Lee Roth after producing and successfully driving him to platinum success on Crazy from the Heat and Eat 'Em and Smile, and then when he went to do the Skyscraper album, he got canned. Unceremoniously and viciously, might I add. And I felt like he felt a little scorned. But I didn't bring this up to Greg, but I really felt like, Ted had a little bad taste in his mouth. Now, the Bullitt Boys were always compared to Van Halen. They were very similar. Lead singer Mark Torrin, he really had a David Lee Roth-esque look and flavor and vibe. The band was a four-piece. They came from California. It was all very similar. And they had Ted Templeman as their producer. And this is what I asked him. I said, was the Bullitt Boys sort of like Ted's last, kind of throw into the rock realm, because Ted ended up retiring like in the 90s. And he produced their first 3 albums. Okay,
right.
He wasn't like he did it once. He did it 3 times. They're all great albums. I love them, too, which is the Bullitt Boys, the debut album, as well as their second, which is Freak Show, and their third, which is Zaza, I believe. All great albums. And I wondered if the Bullitt Boys were sort of like that Van Halen replacement for him. And this is what Greg had to say.
Hey, guys, you asked me about Van Halen and Bullitt Boys and what Ted told me about that connection. Ted never said to me that he was ever looking to follow in the footsteps of Van Halen. I mean, I think he obviously knew there was an influence there, but for him, he just wanted to do a great record with those guys. And I think the results speak for itself. He and Jeff Hendrickson did an amazing job, and all those guys in the Bullitt Boys really delivered. That's a record that Ted is proud of and enjoys, and we listened to it together when I was working with him on the book, and he was remarking on different things that he really thought sounded so good, and the stuff about the studio work that he did on it. So, I don't think there was ever like a blueprint model at all for him. That was never something he said or even implied. He just thought there was an influence there, but that was kind of beside the point. He liked the band.
And boy, wow, if we are not an unbelievable parade for Mr. Renoff. So there we go. We want to give him...
I just want to know why the Bullitt Boys were keeping you up at night.
Because it wasn't that the Bullitt Boys... I happen to like the Bullitt Boys a lot. I guess when I do an interview and there's an extra question that I didn't ask, like, it bothers me. It's like a little thing in my head that hangs. Like, we talked about the Bullitt Boys a little bit in the interview, but the question I wanted to ask was that sort of like a replacement? Like, I always got that feeling like he was not trying to recreate Van Halen, because you can't recreate Van Halen, but almost like he was trying it one more time to do sort of like a 4 on the floor, rock band from California with a wild lead singer. Like, it just had such similarities to Van Halen that it was like hard not to make that comparison. And because it was on Warner's and because it was done by Ted, like, and it had that, I mean, you listen to Smooth Up In You and it just, it's got that whole kind of, even like the way the drums and it's just got the whole groove of it. So I like the Bullitt Boys a lot, and I could I could ask them many questions about the Bullitt Boys. That's just the one question that I needed solved because I'm a sick bastard. I got to admit it.
Well, I know you have trouble living with the little things in your life that hang, so I'm glad you got that out of your system.
You came at me on the side with that one. I did not see that coming. That was a quick, that's what you call a rabbit punch, believe it or not. Right in the side, right in the kidney there. So, believe it or not, Michael Anthony, former bassist, I should say, for Van Halen, is got a hot sauce challenge going out there. So he said, show your quarantine cookout for a chance to win. He said he wants to show a finished dish, explain what hot sauce you used and how you used it in your recipe. And he wants to shoot a video, and the first place gets a $100 gift card to Mad Anthony's official merch and swag shop. And second place gets a $75 gift card, and third place gets a $50 gift card. And the competition ends on May 15th, so when you guys get this, it'll be over. But the winner will be announced on Instagram. I just wanted to give Michael Anthony's Hot Sauce Challenge a little bit of a plug. Michael seems like he's really getting that brand going, Dave. He wants to pump up that hot sauce.
He does. I guess that's what he's working on these days. So good for him.
Absolutely.
I've never had it. I really have to
I want to
get off my butt.
Absolutely. Eddie Trunk says, no joke, not blowing smoke, he said it's the best one he's had. And he said there's a lot of hot sauces out there, he says, with, kind of rock bands putting their name on it. He says this is the real deal. And then he said very specifically that the mustard one is his favorite. I got to check that out because I'm a big mustard guy. And everybody knows you love yourself a nice foot-long hot dog, Dave.
That's right.
I got your back. Right. Got your back.
Pass the mustard.
Pass the mustard. So listen to this, Dave. Listen to this. So, tooling around on the internet, and I come across, believe it or not, Matt Bissonette's drums for sale. Don't ask me how I came upon this. I just came upon it. Sometimes when you're just searching for stuff, and all of a sudden this came up, and I was like, motherfucker, what the hell? So it was Matt Bissonette, who's David Lee Roth's former drummer, okay, who was on Eat 'Em and Smile, and he was on Skyscrapers, on Little Ain't Enough, and he was on those tours. His Skyscraper tour Pearl drum set for sale on eBay. Take a guess how much it was running for.
$10,000.
Ooh, wow. I am impressed. You are right on the money. $10,000.
Wow, really?
$10,995. This is his maple shell set that appeared in Just Like Paradise and Stand Up. And wow, Dave, I am impressed. You hit that number right on the nose there. So look at that.
Wow, nice to know I still got it.
You still got it. You still got it. So now we have talked about this before, and this is even turning into a more interesting little twist and turn of events. So the cover of Van Halen's 2012 album, A Different Kind of Truth, right? With the train coming through, right? It is a photo of a New York Central System locomotive, right? Back at the old Van Halen news segment that we talked about, we said, you know what? This cover kind of ripped off the Commodore's Moving On album. And if you look at it, it's the same train coming from the left side as opposed to Van Halen coming from the right side. Well, holy shit, Dave, it happened again. So Dennis DeYoung released his album 26 East Volume 1. And what is on the cover? But a blue background cover with the New York Central System locomotive, not coming from the left, not coming from the right, but straight on.
Is it the New York Central System locomotive? Because I thought the locomotives had different names.
I don't know. That's the logo.
I think it's the same style of train, but I don't think it's the same train.
Okay, well, that could easily
But still, it's got the train motif, and the thing that really made me raise an eyebrow is that there are wings on the logo.
Yes.
Right? At the top, it's either his name or the title of the album. I forget which one.
Very good. You're right.
But that, to me, I was like, come on now. I mean, I don't think I mean, I don't think Van Halen went, hey, let's rip off the Commodore's album. So I don't think Dennis DeYoung is ripping off the Van Halen album.
Wow.
I just think all these guys like trains.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
I think so. Well, I tell you though.
But the wings, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, it's more like an Aerosmith wing, I guess.
Yeah.
But still, it's like, come on, really?
Absolutely.
At least rip off the Styx logo or something.
It's true. It's true. Well, that wraps up Van Halen news.
And that's the way it is. Good night.
And boy, do we have an epic episode this time out. So Dave and I talk about the 2002 Sam and Dave tour, which I think officially is called, what is it, Song for Song, the world's heavyweights of rock and roll.
Oh my gosh,
something?
what's that? It's too long. It's Song for Song, the heavyweight. Oh,
heavyweight champs of rock and roll. That's what it was.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. No, Song for Song, the Heavyweight Champs of Rock and Roll was the name of the tour. No one in their right mind called the tour that. They called it the Sam and Dave Tour, or they called it the Sans Halen Tour. So Dave and I attended that tour back when we were a mere 32 years old, Dave. It was the summer when we were 32, and we were young and spry and had more hair. And we traveled to New Jersey, and we saw that show. Dave and I break down that whole tour. We talk about everything. We talk about how the tour came together. We talk about the press conference. We talk about the Howard Stern appearance between Dave and Sam, which was legendary. And we talk about our experience at the show. We talk about the set list. We talk about the VH1 special that went along with it. It is a whole beautiful campagna that we put together. And there is that. Okay.
A campagna.
A campagna, Dave. You know what a campagna is?
No, what is a campagna?
Okay, it's one of my favorite things in Italian food. So it is chicken, steak, and sausage all cut up into like diced pieces with onions, peppers, and potatoes, which are balled out like little balls of potatoes in sort of like a brown sauce with a little white wine. It's incredible. It's one of the most amazing dishes you'll ever have. And it's nice a campagna.
Sounds like a nice low-fat meal.
Yeah, it literally, afterwards, you almost need a respirator because, and you need like a pitcher of like brioche to kind of get through the whole thing. But it goes down good, and then you're hurting for like an hour, and then you usually need some like ginger ale or something to offset the whole thing. But it's really good. So it's a nice companion, and then followed by that. Boy, do we have an incredible interview with David Lee Roth's former guitarist, Brian Young. We used to call him B. Young. That was his nickname for him. Brian worked with Dave during the Sam and Dave tour. So Brian was the guitarist in the Atomic Punks after Bart Walsh. Then he became the guitarist in Dave's band after Bart Walsh, the late Bart Walsh, our friend Bart. Unfortunately, he's passed on. And Brian, what great stories he has. And Brian was also worked with Dave, not only on that tour, but when Dave was on the air, on K-Rock, when he replaced Howard Stern. So he was with Dave for several years. He spent something like 6 years or 5-6 years with him or whatever. He has some really interesting stories to share. But before we do that, Dave, boy, am I going to hit you over the head with the biggest sack of mail you've ever seen. So Dave has got to gear up. He's been dreading this all week. I can feel it in the air.
I'm bracing myself. Get ready for some speed reading.
That's right. Dave is really freaking out. I can tell because I've already gotten some texts about this, and I don't know. It seems long. I don't know.
It's a lot of mail.
Yeah, it's a lot of mail because, hey, look, people are home, man. They're home and they're writing.
I know. Hey, look, I'm ecstatic people are listening and taking the time to write in.
That's right.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and there's a lot of love in the mail, so we're certainly going to hit all you guys. We had so much mail, Dave, that I had to move some mail into next month. That's how much mail we had. I couldn't literally even fit it in this timeout.
That's a high-quality problem,
It's a
right
big
there.
sack, just like you have, because you're sitting home with blue balls. Oh, yes!
How is that ever a high-quality problem?
Well, that is all coming up next. Take a listen.
Sam, I am delighted to be doing this with you. This is going to be one hell of a summer. And you are all invited. We demand that you be here.
Sounds great. Here we go. Happy. Superb.
I thought there would be more similarities going into this.
But every night I go beat on his door. Whenever